Now, Robert, you mentioned Skinbreaker's been in the works since 2017. How did the story evolve over the past 8 years?
Quite a bit. I mean, I wrote the story as David was drawing it, and so um, he had a number of pages when he began, but as he was drawing those pages, many elements of what he was putting into the pages would inspire the story moving forward. So when I began the story, I had basically the rough plot. It's going to be this, it's going to go here, it's going to go there. But a lot of details about the world and who the characters were, what their relationships were to each other. Um, a lot of the backstory developed just based on just weapons and clothing and the way that he would draw them. And it really kind of became the core of the story. The Skinbreaker itself, which is the sword that Nora carries at the beginning of the series, was just written to be. I don't even think I like they're hunting and they have weapons. Was like the opening shot, and then David chose to give him this incredibly unique, absolutely fascinating crystal sword. And I was just like, well, I think this is what the book is about now. And that was really just the beginning of the influence that he had in the story as we went forward. So it was a really a remarkable collaborative experience.
It was surreal for me because I just thought, hey, it'd be kind of cool if this sword was crystal. I don't know. I don't even know what I was thinking. I spent a lot of time on the pages. And so a lot of it, I wasn't really even ever deliberately thinking, oh, I want to do this or that. I just was kind of going as I was going. And I didn't intend that to be anything other than I thought it would look cool. That's always kind of where I'm coming from. I just want it to look cool, you know?
Yeah.
So to have that turn into something was awesome. And so, yeah, I had this very big influence on what the story ultimately became completely unintentionally. It's like the best way for me because I would not ever want to try and inject my own ideas into what a story is. It's not my role. I don't see that as my role. Uh, but I got to have a piece of that, it's just very rewarding.
Obviously, I'm not going to spoil too much, but you both have such a massive history and build worlds. What can readers expect from this series, particular kind of tonally?
I think tonally, I think this is a absolutely brutal world featuring characters that are, in a civilization that's seemingly on the brink of collapse. It's a very dire situation. It's a very heightened experience. These characters are, literally like, matters of life and death all around them. Tremendous dangers in their environment that are growing stronger and stronger, and just diametrically opposed plans of how to deal with it. And we get to explore like which characters are right and which characters are wrong, and if they're actually going to survive. And I think it's a really cool core emotional story, but I wanted to keep it direct enough that there would be a lot of room for a lot of visual interpretation and to really kind of expand the visual language of the story and give David room to play and do as much like big shots and expansive vistas and things as possible.
David, tonally, like what, from your perspective, the art.
Well, that was such a good answer. I feel terrible responding. So,
Like he writes for a living. Yeah.
yeah, I feel like I live in a world of my favorite artists and influences, and that's what I love. And so much for me when I look at it, I see the artist that influenced it. And really so much of it just comes from reading the script. When I feel like I know the characters and they're real to me, it's always the best experience, and that just how do I express it? I'm giving you a terrible answer. I'm very sorry.
It's an honest answer.
It's it's not something that I really consciously think about that much. I know the characters from the script and I care about them and I love them, and I hope that comes through. But it definitely influences how I draw them for sure. It is uh, a story that goes to some dark places, but visually I feel like it's more of a it's very lush and beautiful because it's a very vibrant, alive jungle. It's very alien with a lot of different kind of alien influences. So to me, it's not generally a very dark visual story. I think there are a few places, but
Great, thank you.
You are one of my favorite artists, by the way, and I'm not just saying that. So this is two icons here that I
Here we
love.
go.
Tell me more. I, as a new father, I have a 20-month-old. The relationship with, I don't know if we're allowed to talk about this details of it, but the relationship with the son in the first issue. Well, there's 2 children in the first issue, but was just incredible and heartfelt for me, and the struggles that he goes through, and obviously, where did that inspiration come from, and how was that to tell? Because it really, I mean, I remember in the release you said you're gonna cry, and like I didn't, but it got close because it's really you're like you just want, as a father you just want him to, and I'm sure more stuff is coming down the road in the 8 issues, but I just wanted to get
as a parent, anything as simple all the way down to, I really hope my son hits a home run and T-ball or gets a good hit and gets on base and then doesn't. Like you feel that, and like trying to capture that, I think was kind of interesting because like I think any parent knows like being hopeful for your child and then watching them fall short is absolutely devastating. Thankfully, my kids are perfect. I've never had to experience that. But yeah, I don't know. It's just something that I love exploring parent-child relationships, and it's just something that I find like very interesting. And so yeah, it's just in this alien world, surrounded by all this brutality and these dangers and things. Like I wanted to try and show that. These are very human characters that have very human characteristics, and yeah, it's just it just seemed like a fun thing to explore. That from the very first issue would tell you like this is who these people are, this is how we can identify with them, and this is what's important to them.
How was that for you to draw?
I want to say so. I've got 3 boys, and before I had kids, and when I knew I was having kids, what was most important to me is just that they were my sons, so they're my sons, and I did not care beyond that. Whatever it is that they wanted to be or who they wanted to, I just, I never wanted to be a father that would judge them too harshly or expect things from them other than just to, be my sons. And I've always felt that way about them. And the relationship in the book, I feel like is very much like that. He accepts his son for who he is, and is in that with him. It was very touching for me. I think that's certainly my favorite part of the first issue, just that relationship. And reading it, when I finally got the actual book in my hand and was able to read it, that was the biggest moment for me. It's my favorite part. So
That's great. Thank you for that.
Cool. I've always loved your art, amazing art. So we had the privilege of reading issue number 1. Out of the gate, the first thing, I'm glad you mentioned it, lush and vibrant, gorgeous to look at. The pages are amazing. The detail is fantastic. And we'll get to your writing, I guess, in a bit.
Oh my!
But out of the gate,
not important.
the art is so gorgeous. Can you describe the process? Because we saw a picture of what your pages look like compared to what a normal comic is. Are you able to describe that for our listeners?
Well, they're definitely very large, which was a crazy decision to start. But I did it because I knew that this is an opportunity that it's not necessarily even a once in a lifetime opportunity. It could not have happened possibly, And so when I got the chance to work with Robert, and I knew I had the time, I wanted to make it as special as I could possibly make it and put everything that I could into every single page. And, I wanted to be able to leave the book finished and know that I left nothing on the table and everything that I could possibly put into it is there. And there's no excuses where I can say, well, whatever. And this is the very best that I could possibly do. And yeah, it was important to me all the way through doing it, and I'm proud of the fact that I was able to do that. And I'm grateful for the fact that I was able to do that, because it's not an easy thing to be able to allow a book to take as long as it did, and for Robert to be as patient as he has been. Yeah, it's been great. And it just in terms of the actual pages themselves, drawing them, I had a lot of influences, going into the art, into the environment, and then seeing what Annalisa Leone brought to it with color. She really made it, an alien world, but also beautiful and approachable, and she did me so many favors. Just there are pages where, especially black and white, it just becomes just like a sea of detail, and I can see it when I was drawing, and I'm like, I gotta stop, because there's no separation here. And she really did such an amazing job of separating things out and making it very clear. It's always most important to me, believe it or not, looking at the pages the way that I do it. I fall very short of it sometimes, but I want it to be instantly readable and instantly followable. I want the detail to be there, but I don't want that to interfere with the flow of the story, and she helps so much with that.
Awesome. Very gorgeous.
Now, Robert, you said you wanted to work with David forever, and David, you've called this a labor of love. What finally made Skinbreaker the right project for both of you to jump in together? And what's something specific you learned or discovered about each other's creative process during the collaboration?
I don't know. I mean, I think that I wanted something where David could strut. I wanted something where he could show off. I wanted to write something that I could, have my influence and tell my story and have my fun, but kind of get out of the way and let him do his thing. This industry is largely not very fair to artists. A lot of people that are buying these big marquee books from the big publishers and are saying, oh, why isn't this artist done? And why is this issue shipping late? And what's going on here? There's a system within these companies where, sometimes they will just outright tell an artist, don't worry, you'll have time to work on this. And then the artist will see that the book is solicited. They know the pace that every one of these artists work with, and they actively kind of keep them under the gun. And they know that some of these issues are going to ship late, and they're just like, well, and I understand they have quotas and corporate pressures and things, but it's just all around kind of unfair. And so to be able to work with David in an environment where I strip all of that away, and it's like, what would you do if you had unlimited schedule, and what kind of journey would you want to go on as an artist, and what would you like to do? It just a tremendous opportunity. And so all of that kind of influenced what project we chose, and it all led us to this Skinbreaker book, because it seemed like the kind of story I wanted to tell, the kind of story you wanted to draw, and something where it was such a lush and detailed environment. There's something happening, even when it's a quiet story of two people talking, they're in such a interesting and unique environment. It's not a boardroom. It's not a press conference. It's not a hangar bay. It's not, like the locations that you normally find yourself in superhero comics can sometimes be a little mundane. And so we were able to avoid all of that kind of stuff, which I think was really important.
I wouldn't have wanted to draw a story like this under any other circumstance. Just all of the individual leaves, it's I know that there are compromises. For these kinds of environments, if I had to do it to a very tight schedule, the way that I've worked for years, I have methods for doing that and shortcuts for doing that, but they're always shortcuts and they're always compromises. I just couldn't have done this any other way. And I would have really dreaded drawing a story like this because I know there's just no way I could have possibly done what it needed. So this was a chance to do that. The kind of environments I love drawing. It's just so much fun to do, but it just takes time, which I'm happy to do. I love just spending forever on a page. It's, I love it. So hopefully it shows.
So obviously you both have such an extensive history with, well-known, is that Walking Dead, Invincible, Batman, where they're grounded in a sort of reality, right? We understand, human legs, arms, head,
Right.
kind of things. So when you're telling a story on page, artistically, and writing it, what sort of freedoms or challenges maybe come with this is an alien story? They don't have to have the things we think they do.
Right. I mean, you fall into a body of water, literally anything can be in that body of water, you go into a cave, literally anything can be in that cave. I've said before, I really enjoyed writing superhero comics because if the story I wrote was boring, someone could bust through the wall at any point. It's nice to be able to write in an environment where you have, as a storyteller, those kind of, functions available to you at any time. And so, when you're writing in an alien planet, when I write a story, I'm always trying to picture what's going to be drawn and make sure that it's always exciting for the artist to draw, or there's something about it that's cool, because I wholeheartedly believe that the things that artists like to draw make the page exciting, which makes the story exciting, which makes the reader excited, which makes the book enjoyable. And so if I'm ever writing a story where it's like I have to write this scene because it's important, because this happened and then this happened and this has to happen in the middle, I put a tremendous amount of effort into making sure that essential thing that has to happen is not just there to perform for the story. It's actually visually compelling and additive to the overall visual experience. And when you're in an alien world and can just have a cool bat fly overhead, it's nice to be able to do that. So tremendous amount of freedom comes from that. And I want to acknowledge that I have talked far too long in the answer of this question. I apologize.
Lots of drawing aliens.
There's a certain amount of imposter syndrome that comes with that I'm used to in definitely a lot of ways, but drawing Batman, I have years and years of other artists and visual interpretations to kind of fall back on. With something like this, I didn't have any of that, and I certainly had my influences, but I'm making choices that before I make the choice, I read the script and it could be anything, but I have to pick something. And it's so hard to know, is that really the best choice that I could have made? Because now moving forward, that's kind of a defined visual element of what we're doing. And I just had to make those choices, and it was very difficult sometimes.
Willing it into existence.
Yes.
Give them a third arm or third leg. Or...
Yeah.
Cool.
Here's where I get ramped up. I don't think anyone does details like David. You always know a David Finch piece when you see it because it's so beautifully done and detailed. And I mean that again, coming in here, I'll take the title of hype man. But going in, taking those details and then going into the non-action sequences in the book, and I always say look at the eyes, like when there's not action happening, but to see the emotion, if to see what the interaction between the mentor and the mentee to start the book off and the discussions. How is that to approach for you to kind of tell a story without, again, someone busting through a wall? And then to Robert, how is that to write for too? Because sometimes with those scenes, it's almost like less is more. You have to you want to tell everything, but you're like, let me pull back because let the art tell the story. I'd love to know about that because the book does it beautifully. When there's not a crazy monster there, I enjoyed those scenes with them just kind of, obviously the impossible choice that is position and ends the first issue. I just, it all builds to that moment, and I think it just did a fantastic job with that.
Thank you. I would say, if the quiet scenes don't work and those emotional moments don't work and the connection with the characters doesn't work, then the big moments don't work. You know, you might be able to look at it and say, hey, that's a cool picture of somebody, you know, bursting through a wall, whatever it is, but those character moments are really the most vital thing, and that's what makes the story and the book work in the end. And I'm very aware of that. And it always, I don't know that there are artists that I feel like that do that kind of thing so beautifully and capture emotion so well. And it's something that there are times I feel like, you know, it may not be my strongest suit. I feel the most comfortable drawing like the big fight scenes and everything. But I do find it's easier when I know the characters, and I actually really empathize with the characters. That carries me through a lot, and I go with how I feel about the scene and about the characters, and you know, about what they're going through, and I try and, you know, really keep that in my mind when I'm, you know, drawing those pages. I feel like they really represent the actual heart of the story.
I agree. Sorry. It's like,
yeah, I mean, for me, I found there's a freedom to writing the scenes for David, because, you know, like I say, I'm trying to make sure that even the quietest scenes are visually compelling. And the way he was I knew by the time we got to that scene in the cave, and some of the more emotional stuff later on in the issue, that just giving him the room to draw the detail of the characters' faces would make the pages visually interesting. So it was nice to be able to just kind of, you know, in the writing of those scenes, just like write the emotion and let him know, you know, what these characters are feeling while they're having this conversation, and just, you know, just allow him to construct the scenes around these, like, really, you know, like, infused with, you know, very deep character and everything. Like, there's a page, I think halfway through the first issue, where they're still in the woods, where Nor hasn't been able to crack the jaw of the monster, where there's just this close-up on a knock at the very end of the page. And that was like the most character-defining shot for him. For me, like, when that came through, it was like, okay, I see the pain, I see the anger that he has for, like, knowing where this story is going and knowing what he's going to have to do, and it was just all right there on his face. I don't know, I just always thought that kind of stuff was remarkable, but it definitely gave me the freedom of knowing, like, you know, I can, you know, when it's a talking head scene, as long as I'm not making it like 8 pages of talking heads, like, I knew that I could lean on Dave to make sure that you know, the talking head scenes were as compelling as the, you know, monsters falling into the traps and getting skewered on spikes.
yeah, I've always gravitated towards like the reluctant hero story, and I feel like that's what a knock goes through. It's great.
Cool.
My question to you, Robert, and it's, I'll piggyback it real quick. Do you have a specific ending in mind for the story already, a specific ending? And then what's the creative process like between you guys? You guys email, do you guys talk on the phone? Do you just let him go to work and show off? Because that's exactly what he's doing this series.
I think that number one, we had the book's done. We have an ending. It's written and drawn.
Okay.
So yeah, this is an 8-issue epic of oversized issues. It's going to be really cool. This guy's like, I don't give a crap about your answers. But
Like, I'm out. Peace
I
out,
got
guys.
places to be. Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool.
It's totally fine. Totally
Your
fine.
other property.
But I think that David and I are perfect for each other, because he does not like to communicate, and I am very busy. And so we email constantly, and we do get on the phone quite frequently, but it's not like it's like every day. You know, he gets to, you know, spend his time on the pages and do what it is that he does. And I feel like it's at least once a month, but, you know, sometimes more, sometimes less, that we have like very long conversations on the phone talking about various different things. And anytime we're in the same city, like, we always reach out and get together and stuff. So yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's a tremendous amount of trust. I know I have a tremendous amount of trust in you and what you're going to do. So I do feel the freedom of not feeling the need to hover in any way or ask questions because I know that David's got it handled.
Awesome.